Supervisors and ladies and gentlemen, I make it 7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. This is the meeting of the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors. This meeting has been properly noticed and it is a legally constituted meeting. We will begin with an invocation tonight. We do have a change from the notation on your agenda, and we are honored to have with us tonight Pastor Jacob Arusso, and we'll invite Pastor Arusso forward, and supervisors and audience members, please stand.
Fred did notify me that he's not going to be here.
It's good to be here, and thank you all for all that you do. Let us pray. Holy and eternal God, King of heaven, what shall we offer you in exchange for all you've done for us? You've done so much for us that we can't forget all your benefits, from the rising of the sun to the going down of the same. Let your name be praised. Tonight we ask you, Lord, to keep this nation under your care. We thank you for the capture of Osama bin Laden. May you continue to keep us safe under the shadow of your wings, because unless you watch over our city, the watchman watches in vain. To the governor of our state, senators and representatives, and those who make our laws in states, cities, and towns, give courage, wisdom, and foresight. For the judges and officers of our courts, give understanding and integrity, that human rights may be safeguarded and justice served. To our police and firefighters, grant your protection. Almighty God, we commend to you, to your gracious care and keeping, all the men and women of our armed forces at home and abroad. Defend them by day with your heavenly grace. Strengthen them in their trials and temptations. Give them courage to face the challenges they face on a daily basis, and assure them of your abiding presence wherever they may be. Look with mercy, O God, our Father, the elderly, as they increasingly become weak, distressed, or isolated. Provide for them homes of dignity and peace. Give them understanding helpers and the willingness to accept help. And as their strength diminishes, increase their faith and their assurance of your love. God our Father, you see your children growing up in an unsteady and confusing world. Show them that your ways give more life than the ways of the world, and that following you is better than chasing after selfish goals. Help them to take failure not as a measure of their worth, but as a chance for a new beginning. Give them strength to hold their faith in you and keep alive their joy in your creation through Jesus. And finally, teach all people within the St. Croix County to rely on your grace, strength, and provision. For you alone, as the psalmist remarks, is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Tonight also may the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi become personal and meaningful. O Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is discord, harmony. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sorrow, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. All this we ask in the name of Jesus, our Lord and Savior.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor. Are you ready? Supervisors, please indicate your presence. just, the only absent is Supervisor Horn. He is excused. He's on a business trip in California. The agenda has been presented. I will make one notation in the order, and that is we will move the committee and department reports, UW Extension and the Fair Association, up to right after the presentation from Jay Tappan and Shar Gurney from West Central Regional Planning. Otherwise, we'll take the agenda in the order that it's that's printed. Is there a motion on the consent agenda? Motion from Supervisor Schrank, second from Supervisor Larson. Yes. Roger, can you get your second in? And proceed to vote. And the consent agenda is adopted. We do have several appointments tonight. These appointments do require board approval. Unless there is objection raised from the board, I will announce the appointments and then we'll vote on them together. Is there any objection to doing that? Seeing none, I will announce the following appointments. Reappointed to the Board of Adjustment for a 3-year term is Buck Malik and David Peterson. And reappointed to the Health and Human Services Board for a 3-year term is Leon Barenshot. Leon is a citizen member of that board. Leon is a past member of this board. Motion to approve those appointments would be in order. Motion from Supervisor Seacard, second from Supervisor Schrank. Get your second in, Alfie. And proceed to vote. And those appointments are approved. Congratulations on those reappointments. And with that, we will move right into our agenda, and I'm very pleased to introduce to our group tonight Jay Tappan from West Central Regional Planning. And Jay has Shar Gurney with him, but I didn't know that Shar was going to be accompanying, so she is not given any accolades as far as placement on the agenda. So I indicated to Jay if he knows nice things to say about Shar, he's welcome to do that and then call her forward. So Jay, welcome, and the platform is yours.
Well, thank you. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you tonight about the West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission and its long-standing relationship with St. Croix County. I'll take some moments to talk about the Regional Planning Commission, and then Shar Gurney, our wonderful administrator of the Regional Business Fund, will talk about that important program. The Commission is statutorily charged with the planning for the physical, social, economic development of the region. We provide technical assistance and advisory services on regional issues to local governments and organizations within the region, and often serve as a coordinating agency for local, state, and federal programs and activities. This year, the Commission is commemorating 40 years of service to the counties and communities of the region. During that time, the Commission has built a skilled and experienced staff to complement local government when additional expertise and cost-effective capacity is needed. We have developed enduring relationships with local governments and other partners in the region based on trust, competency, and service. The Commission is a public consultant that operates solely for the benefit of local governments and their citizens. We are not a state agency and have no regulatory authority. We do have a long history of providing technical support and services that maximize value and minimize cost. Economic development is one of our key services. As an economic development district for the U.S. Economic Development Administration, the Commission provides economic development planning, technical assistance, and project identification for Commission member counties. And as a result, all of our member counties have benefited. St. Croix County and its communities have received economic development technical assistance for about 30 years from this program. We have also secured community development funding for St. Croix County communities. Through grant applications prepared since 2000, the Commission has assisted St. Croix County communities in securing $750,000 in community development block grants for public facility improvements. The Commission, in partnership with the Wisconsin Department of Commerce, the I-94 Technology Zone Board of Directors, and the Economic Development Corporation here in St. Croix County, assisted in setting up administrative guidelines and administered the I-94 Technology Zone Tax Credit Program. This program allowed expanding technology businesses to receive tax credits. Over the life of the program, from 2003 to 2009, 7 St. Croix County businesses received over $1.5 million in tax credits. Transportation planning is another one of our key services. The Commission has designated the Metropolitan Planning Organization for the Chippewa-Eau Claire urbanized area. The MPO is responsible for the development of the long-range transportation plan for the metropolitan area and for the Transportation Improvement Program. Proper compilation and submittal of these documents is critical for the inflow of all federal and state transportation planning and project funds into the region. By investing less than $15,000 of levy funds annually into these transportation planning efforts, the Commission leverages about $120,000 of transportation planning money, and millions of transportation project dollars flow into the region annually. In St. Croix County, we have worked with the Village of Hammond and Roberts and St. Croix Central School District to submit a successful Safe Routes to School grant to the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, and we are currently working on that plan. From 2007 to 2011, this year, the Commission coordinated, applied for, and administered the West Central Wisconsin Collaborative Plan Multi-Jurisdictional Comprehensive Planning Grant at our cost. St. Croix County obtained $75,000 in eligible grant funding and will likely save significant money due to the data, tables, and maps from our Condition and Trends report that can be used in the county plan. In St. Croix County also, 5 towns and 2 villages also participated in the grant and were eligible for $96,000 in grant funds. In addition, these communities had access to that same Conditions and Trends report and the data summary we prepared, and many of these communities integrated information from these documents into their plans. And currently, we are assisting the county with its comprehensive plan and the farmland preservation plan. The Commission also participates and provides administrative services to the Wisconsin Gateway Corridor Coalition, formerly the I-94 Corridor Coalition, and participates on the technical and policy advisory committees for the Gateway Corridor Transit Alternative Analysis Study. And they're looking at transportation issues for the I-94 corridor from Eau Claire essentially into the Twin Cities. We've also assisted the county in emergency planning. In 2010, the Commission assisted with the preparation of a pending grant of $29,850 to update the St. Croix County Hazard Mitigation Plan. These plans are a prerequisite for receiving FEMA mitigation funds. And in 2006, we also prepared the grant for almost $43,000 to create the original hazard mitigation plan. And that plan was completed by the county in 2007. We also have coordinated the St. Croix County Tactical Interoperable Communications Plan, which is a plan that allows responders to communicate during events. These are just a few examples of the value the Commission has provided to St. Croix County. In the packet provided, there's a listing of our activity over the past 10 years in St. Croix County. The value we provide is built upon leveraging every dollar we receive. To provide funds to meet its expenses, the Commission prepares and approves a budget reflecting the cost of its operations and services to the 7 counties within the region. The amount of our budget charged to the counties is a modest levy apportioned by equalized assessed real property valuation and amounts to about 15 to 20% of our total budget in any given year. The Commission uses these funds to match its program and project grants, provide basic operational support, and provide technical assistance to counties and communities in the region. State and federal grants for planning and projects, revenue from contracts with counties and communities for projects fund the remainder of our budget. We look forward to many more productive years of effective service to the St. Croix County and all of the other counties and communities we serve in West Central Wisconsin. Please contact our office if you have questions about our operations or have ideas for a project we might be able to help you with. And finally, I'd like to recognize the valuable contributions of our current St. Croix County Commissioners, Lauren Sather, James Stauffer, Larry Weisenbeck, and past Commissioners Linda Lucky and Joe Hirchen. Thank you very much, and Shar will now talk to you about the Regional Business Fund, and then we can take any questions after that.
Well, good evening. That was the nicest thing Jay has ever said about me, so I appreciate you setting that up. Yeah. As mentioned, my main role at West Central Regional Planning Commission is to manage the Regional Business Fund revolving loan fund programs and the contract with the Regional Business Fund, Inc. And I see a lot of familiar faces this evening, but for those of you that may not be familiar with the Regional Business Fund, I do like to start with a little bit of history. The Regional Business Fund, Inc. is a nonprofit organization that was actually established by West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission back in 1995. Regional Planning Commission received a grant from the Economic Development Administration to start up a revolving loan fund. And so the organization operated and administered that fund for many, many years. And then about 5 years ago, the role changed considerably. And many of you may be aware of the consolidation of the community-based revolving loan fund programs that were started through the Department of Commerce Community Development Block Grant Program. And former staff, Ann Raid, and staff at the Department of Commerce worked diligently and very hard at talking with communities, counties, cities, villages, townships throughout our region about the concept and the advantages and role of a consolidated revolving loan fund. And there are 32 communities, which include all 7 counties and then 25 other cities, villages, and townships that had revolving loan fund programs at the community level. And I'm happy to say that through all the hard work with former staff and many individuals, including the St. Croix EDC and other EDCs throughout our region and others involved in economic development, there are 31 out of 32 communities that have consolidated their funds into a much larger program that is now capitalized at $16.5 million. The goal of the consolidation, there were more specific goals, but the main goal for the consolidation was to create a much more effective and efficient program. And to talk about that a little bit, there is a handout in the packet that we provided, and it's titled Examples of WCW RPC Value to St. Croix County. Within that handout, you'll see that there is some tables, and it's specific to the activity through the consolidated fund. As you can see there were 228 loans that were consolidated at the onset of the programs. And the program and the portfolio consists of 370 loans today. So the program has really grown quite a bit, and there's been a lot of activity over the last 4 years. As I mentioned, the fund is capitalized at $16.5 million. The number of businesses throughout the region that have received loans is 227, and of those, 96 of those businesses are startup businesses. Total amount awarded is a little bit over $12.5 million for an average award amount of $51,000. Those loans have created a little over 1,100 jobs throughout the region, and the dollars awarded per job created and retained is a little over $10,000. And then more significantly, or another benchmark that we look at is the private dollars leveraged is over $56.1 million. So that's that is the picture of the fund as a whole, as a regional fund. But what does that mean to St. Croix County? The second chart down below talks about the number of businesses in St. Croix County that have received funds through the Regional Business Fund are 54. 18 of those are startup businesses. The total amount awarded is $4.16 million. And the jobs retained or pre-loan jobs is 452, and jobs created with the through the businesses from the assistance of these funds is 369. And private dollars leveraged is $25.6 million. So there has been quite a bit of activity throughout the 4 years, and I have had the opportunity to present the annual report over the last couple of years, and I do want to mention that you will be receiving that for 2010 very soon as well, so you'll be able to see more specifically the activity throughout the entire region. With that, I think that it's very important to note that the goal, again, was to look at the possibility of having a more effective, efficient program. We believe that that is something that is happening. The Regional Business Fund Board continues to look at the sustainability of these dollars for many, many, many years to come, and how do we do that. So with that, I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak tonight, and would ask for any questions.
So you're gonna get a different little version than what I have, but that's okay, it'll be good. Joanne is helping. We were just giving you the marketing tool again, once again, so that if you have people that need to find the UW Extension office, you'll have that brochure for you. And also then some copies of our slides of the PowerPoint in case you wanna follow along or make some notes or ask some questions. So first we wanna say how glad we are to give this annual report for you and talk a little bit about the purpose of that we commit to at UW Extension. We really see our role as teaching, learning, leading, and serving, but by connecting the people with the UW Wisconsin and engaging them in transforming lives and communities. And I'm not pushing the right one, this one. So the, gonna go to the next one. I can just hit the space bar. We want to talk a little bit about where the money comes from. You can see there's a variety of sources that brings money to the UW Extension program, and more relevantly right here in St. Croix County. We have the opportunity to draw on 250 UW statewide specialists. They help us to meet local needs like tourism initiatives, the youth adult partnerships, field crop research, and preparing to parent. They also help by providing some WISLine, webinars, publications, fact sheets, and other educational materials to our office. We feel we bring unique skills and services to St. Croix County. And what we really were, as we were talking about this, and the picture really helps for those of you that recognize this from New Richmond, that we feel learning is really a two-way street. It's the transformational education that Extension has been focusing on over the past several years. We help the people in communities to help themselves. And the university benefits from our expertise and experiences in the local communities as well. And so it's really a two-way street of learning and gaining knowledge. And we wanted to really focus tonight on how our programs connect with your strategic board initiatives that you identified last year. And so we're going to focus on each one of those 4 initiatives and how Extension has addressed those in our 4 program areas. So the first one we'll look at is effective community services through the family living programs. And you can see from the PowerPoint, but I'm just going to highlight a few things for you. 100% of the participants in the money marketing classes in the jail reported that they were able to apply some information from the class, and budgeting was identified as their most helpful thing. According to UW Extension Alternatives to the Jail Research Review, drug court saves an estimated $700,000 in county court costs per year. UW Extension Family Living helps contribute to these savings in St. Croix County. In a long-term follow-up evaluations, participants were asked 8 questions regarding financial skills that they gained. They reported a 70 to 100% increase in skills about figuring out where their money goes, learning how to set goals, finding additional resources, using a budget and spending plan, paying their bills on time, paying fines and fees, having reduced past debts, and saving money every week. Another effective community service is from Community Resource Development. St. Croix County partnered with the Polk County Extension Office to deliver the 2010-2011 Polk St. Croix Leadership Academy. The Academy offered individuals working and living in Polk and St. Croix counties an opportunity to change their lives and the lives of those around them by learning more in their communities. In the partnership, UW Extension, they have an opportunity for personal and professional growth with each session because they meet once a month from September through May. Effective community services also comes through our Wisconsin Nutrition Education Program. It was identified that many young families don't know how to plan and prepare healthy meals for their family, and so Extension offers meal planning and food preparation class for families enrolled in the free school lunch program, sorry. Parents and families attend 4 evening classes in their own school districts, and they work together on learning and planning and their cooking skills. These results have been documented through the surveys, and you can see one of the highlights is that this results in better health for families and less money needed to spend on health care. When we look at financial and operational accountability, especially through the 4-H Youth Development Program, we have about 250 adult volunteers contributing to youth in their communities in 2010. According to the independent sector, the average volunteer gives 2 to 4 hours of volunteer time each week. So if we use the current minimum wage of $7.25 an hour, you can see that the volunteers give an estimated $377,000 worth of time to the youth of St. Croix County, and that's averaging 2 to 4 weeks. And I had a volunteer who asked me to, her employer is offering to meet that payment or her volunteer hours in her business, and she was averaging about 4 or 6 hours a week, so it was a little bit higher than what you see there. Financial and operational accountability in agriculture programs. One of the ways Extension educates farmers and rural landowners on economic issues is through rental rate survey workshops. Interestingly enough, one of the most popular questions in our office is, what's the going rate for cropland? Cash rent is a big business in St. Croix County. There's an estimated 92,000 acres rented annually for a gross of $6.3 million. Survey data from farmland rental rates was collected from 114 landowners on 230 parcels of land in the fall of 2010, revealing an average rental rate of $69 per acre, with the range from $19 to $135. And so our educator had some winter meetings to talk about how they determine what the rental price is, talk about some relationships with landowner and renters, and have some written agreements drawn up. And over 85% of the attendees said that it was a great program, and the more important thing that came out is that there was really a conversation about those rental rates, which helped to make a more open dialogue and less contentious issue with the rental rates. When we look at preservation and protection of the environment, one of the 10 4-H clubs that submitted information in that area of community service talked about their members learning about the importance of recycling. They learned about it in school, they probably do it at their homes, and so they decided to help with some of that cleanup at the county fairgrounds. And interestingly enough, they were amazed at the number of people that did not recycle cans when they came to the county fairgrounds. And so they were learning how important they were in the community to make a change, and then learning that as a lifelong lesson, that it was important for them to think about their recycling and their effects as well. And another, preservation and protection of the environment, obviously fits pretty well with the agriculture programs. And in December, Extension and Land and Water Conservation had offered a training jointly on how farmers can write their own nutrient management plans. So the UW Extension office covered the agronomy basis for the nutrient management planning, including nitrogen management and legume crediting, phosphorus and potassium management, and manure applications. This is one of the meetings that attendance was required for the people. And one of their programs they noted from learning this is that they're learning how to save some money by purchasing different types of fertilizer and how to do a better job of manure applications. So and the other thing that was interesting to note about that is that their farms range from 120 to 1,000 acres, and it represented about 4,100 acres in the county, 550 head of beef cattle, and 860 head of dairy cattle. So quite an impact in the community of what those people were learning at that program, and then how they've been able to use it in this spring as they're getting into their fields. And another responsible community and economic development is from the R Avenue Committee in New Richmond. We know that communities that prosper are those that are able to leverage resources and find a way to work together. Businesses are more apt to invest in someone that's working together on the same initiative. And so the New Richmond Area Avenue came together, or our Avenue Committee came together as a grassroots organization committed to increasing commerce along the Knowles Avenue corridor. So there was business owners, community leaders, and Chamber of Commerce members worked together on this committee facilitated by UW Extension to develop a strategic plan for the committee and use the UW River Falls survey group down there to gather some more information. And one of their goals was to develop a logo and a tagline to update the city's brand. And you guys see it here first. This is just unveiling as we speak in January. So it's pretty new that that's out there. So a few of you may have seen this logo and tagline that it's out there. And they're hoping that that's going to help them attract new customers, events, and businesses in the area. That's all I have unless you have questions. Again, we want to thank you for all of our support, and you can see the 6 staff members that work in our office to bring UW Extension programs to your county. Any questions? Not a problem. Otherwise, I do also want to point out to you the nutrition education program wanted to make sure that you were getting the appropriate amount of servings as you eat. So feel free to take these home, hang them on your refrigerator, and remember the size of the portions that you should be eating. Thank you all. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, Marie. And next we'll have a presentation from the Fair Association. I see Dick back there. Are you doing it, Dick, or Ann? You? Ann Frank, right? Yes. I'd like to introduce to you Ann Frank, supervisors. Dick, you're getting a pass tonight. Is that the plan?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Ann Frank, and it is my honor to present to you the St. Croix County Fair Annual Report. Before I get started, I'd like to answer the question that you may be asking if you're not familiar with our fair, and that is, what is the St. Croix County Fair, and what does it bring to our county? The St. Croix County Fair is a place where 4-H'ers, FFA youth, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, public school classes, senior citizens, special needs individuals, you, me, and in short, everyone from all ages and backgrounds from across St. Croix County can come together to share their knowledge, skill, passion, and creativity in a fun environment that fosters agricultural development, community spirit, learning, sharing, and excellence. It will be held this year, July 20th through the 24th. Our fair is a free fair with a fee for parking if you'd like to park on the grounds. The attractions range from kiddie tractor pulls to 6-horse draft hitches and about everything in between. It is the showcase for the 4-H, FFA, and open class projects, resulting in a multitude of displays, demonstrations, and competitive classes for youth and adults alike. Attendance in the past has been estimated to be 25,000 spectators and exhibitors over the course of 4 days. It includes the junior fair. There you will find children showing their proud grandparents their electricity, food and nutrition, drawing, woodwork, and what have you projects. It's here that the youth of our county learn life skills and get their first taste of many possible future career paths. It also includes the open class, where you'll find timeless skills such as gardening, canning, winemaking, and quilting being cultivated. It's here that you will find the proud grandparents showing their exhibits to their grandchildren. You will also notice at the fair friends and family gathering right here in St. Croix County for entertainment under the Croix Court tent. Or, if the wine of engines is more to their liking, fairgoers can enjoy the mud races and tractor pulls for an extra fee. Also part of our festivities are midway rides and games. All around the fair are booths filled with information about local businesses and opportunities to get involved in local community organizations. And of course, everywhere you look at our fair, people will be enjoying the delicious food and atmosphere that you can only get at the fair. The fair in Glenwood City has been a long-time tradition for our county. Last year was a very special celebration at the fairgrounds. It marked the 100th year since the first fair was held on the current location. We took the opportunity to celebrate and remember all the fairs in the history of our county through special exhibits, and we enjoyed the reminiscences from those who have a long history with our fair. So what's new at the fair this year? Most notably, we have added an extra day, designating Wednesday as an entry day for exhibits, which we believe will result in a smoother, more enjoyable fair for exhibitors and spectators. We have a new carnival this year, and also new this year, we have celebrity donkey races, where friends, family, and coworkers and community members become donkey jockeys for a few hours in this side-splitting event. I'm looking forward to that one. We could have a Board of Supervisors team. The theme for our fair this year is Party in the Barn, and it is a significant one for us. It celebrates the fact that our dream of building a new barn for our overflowing dairy project is fast becoming a reality. The last building to be put up on the fairgrounds by the Fair Board was the beef barn, and that was in the late 70s. So we are very excited that the excavation is completed and material and equipment are ready for construction to begin. Many private donations and community events have supported this project, including the upcoming second annual May Fair event and sale, which is going to take place this Saturday. That's May 7th, and it's from 4 to 9 p.m. So if you can come, please do. There will be a buffet dinner available for a free will offering. There will be music, games for kids, prizes, and a live and silent auction, with all donations and proceeds to go towards the new dairy barn. There are many other events at the fair all summer long at the fairgrounds. There are 12 events from May to September. This includes many 4-H clinics as well as benefits. And it also includes the St. Croix Valley PRCA Rodeo, which this year will be on June 17th and 18th, with performances at 7:30. Additionally, for several weekends in October, we have a haunted house that rents space at the fairgrounds. In the winter months, we offer storage for boats and campers, and we receive rent for the space. And all throughout the summer months, I like to note that people in the community come down to the fairgrounds and use the outdoor arenas when they're not in use for their own pleasure and enjoyment to work with their horses. The St. Croix County Fair is a wonderful tradition where people young and old, urban and rural, can come together to participate in a summer community event that I believe is as relevant and thriving today as it was in its inception in 1910. For youth, it cultivates curiosity, learning, creativity, and leadership skills. For adults, the open class participants, for them it provides culture, an environment that fosters cultural and fine arts, and it serves as a place to display and share antique heritage. The fair draws families and friends together for fun, education, and quality entertainment right here in St. Croix County. I'd like to end by inviting each of you to the fair this year. Again, it's July 20th through the 24th. Come and either be a spectator or, better yet, a participant. If you have any questions, you can contact me or our president, Dick Subble, and we'll get you involved. On behalf of the Fair Board, I'd like to thank you for your time and your continued support.
Any questions, supervisors? Ann and Dick, thank you very much. I was going to jump right on that race opportunity, but that's a political symbol with which I'm normally not associated, so I guess I'll pass on that one. I couldn't resist. That felt like a love pitch. A big deal happened last year, folks. You probably heard about it. And that is that we conducted a census. As a result of that census, we have the opportunity, or shall I say the responsibility, of redistricting. So I would like at this point to move to agenda item number 2 and invite Ellen Denzer forward. We have been working in the administration committee, which has been designated the redistricting committee, with Ellen for a couple of months now. And we do have for review a presentation from Ellen on a tentative county board redistricting plan. And Ellen, I'll turn it over to you.
And I will wait for Cindy. And can I turn this on so I don't? Great. I will be brief. I was told to be brief tonight, although your questions can certainly take it longer. There we go. The advancer's not working. Okay. Is there? Can I push this and have it work? No. Okay.
I'm gonna try to reset it, but go ahead.
So if it doesn't work, what do I use? Just press your space button? All right. As Supervisor Standifer pointed out, the administration committee met on April 18th, and they reviewed 6 different draft plans, plus a couple of insert ideas, possibilities, alternatives, that kind of thing. They basically came up with one that they felt was the most appropriate. We did have the option of using the online software program, but they chose to move ahead with one of the plans that was presented. The plan that's presented does meet all the guidelines, and I'll talk about those in a minute. And they also set a public hearing date, a special county board meeting on May 12th. That will be before your committee of the whole meeting at 9 a.m. We have also sent this plan out to all the county clerks, city, village, and town, and all the newspapers for review, and a public hearing notice has gone out for advertising in the paper. So we're following along as rapidly as possible. What guidelines were used? Well, of course, the most important guideline is that it would be as close to 4,439 people per supervisory district as possible. All the plans we reviewed had plus or minus 1% deviation. Plus or minus 1% goes up to about 80, plus or minus 80 people. The one that they chose was plus 60 and minus 50. Those were the ranges that it went. Its median size was 4,435, which is pretty close to the 4,439. And average deviation, meaning what on average was it from that perfect size, was 24 people. And the standard deviation, meaning where do the majority of the districts fall, was plus or minus 30. And all of those statistics were on the handout that was also sent to you as part of the package for your mailing for today. So I won't go into those unless anyone has any questions on them. And then I did zoom in on just part of those for you in case you had a question I needed to refer to tonight. Okay. See if it works. Okay. Okay. All right. The guidelines we used, as I said, the first and most important priority was the size. The second priority was to have compact, contiguous districts. All portions of a district must touch unless there's something that divides them physically, such as a river or something like that. And I will show you a couple examples of things that were surprising to all of us where they could not be contiguous. But for the most part, they are. They all had any reviewed plans that had some very strange, kind of stretched out, unusual shapes were rejected. And I think they did choose the one that was probably the most compact. We also had to, equally important, is communities of interest. Now, a community of interest really varies from how you want to look at it. It's a neighborhood. It's a township. It's a city. It's a village. Those are all communities of interest. And in its smallest and most important concept, it's a portion of a neighborhood that represents perhaps a minority group, okay? But it can be all these other things, areas that are of communities of interest. For instance, I looked at, as I was trying to make the possible plans for the board's consideration, I looked at things like a rural district, urban districts, keeping small villages intact as much as possible, because they're, of course, much more tighter knit and closer, and you want to keep that community of interest unsplit. I call it split when we divide things up. So they rejected those plans that did not have acceptable splits, and they took the plan that had the fewest splits. There was one split that doesn't really meet our concept of keeping a community of interest intact, and that is in the town of Star Prairie. It does split a portion of a very large neighborhood off. There's over 400 and some people, probably actually closer to maybe 500 in that neighborhood, and a portion of them, about 100, are split off. So that was one that we had to balance and make a choice. It was decided by the administration committee that it was more important to get closer to that perfect district size, and that particular community of interest, that you had to weigh those things, and they made a choice. A third priority was meeting any kind of time you did make a split, you have to meet all the ward guidelines. The ward guidelines are all census blocks are not split. All census blocks in that particular ward are contiguous. All the population sizes are met. And those things are all met in all the plans we reviewed, and so that really didn't come up as much of an issue. The fourth priority is trying to make sure that when we do pick district boundaries, that there are things that can be easily conveyed to voters. Do you live north of Highway 35? Do you live south of Highway 35? Are you in the city of Hudson? Are you outside the city of Hudson? Easy question. So all boundaries that were chosen are either municipal limits, and sometimes the districts may look a little funny, but that is usually related to a municipal district. Roads, and there was definitely a consideration of trying to find more well-understood roads. For instance, if we choose a county road versus a town road, when possible. But that was not, a road is a road, and most people know if they live north of it or south of it, especially if they're close to it. There was one small piece of river used. We do find from past experience that people don't really like it when you use a river for a boundary. It seems like a very natural, very physical separation, but people are not always very keen on it. They're not always sure exactly where the river is. Railroad, we only used a couple pieces of that, and a couple pieces of walking trail. I do think that we may revisit those. Those are both in the city of New Richmond or the city of Hudson. In both those cases, the city of New Richmond and the city of Hudson, adjustments will likely be made because we do need to accommodate their aldermanic district plans. And so what usually happens is you go through a negotiation period where they say, how about this? And we say, sure, how about that? And you make it work a little bit. So those boundaries are a little more fluid than most of the other ones are. That's what I mean by the final point, that we will need to work out some inconsistencies. Now I'd like to just point out a few things on the map that might help you understand some of the considerations that the administration committee made. Hopefully you can see it or refer to your copy. Okay, as soon as I can. I'll just put it right there and hopefully it will work. There we go. Okay, for instance, if you were to look, you'll see there's this funny little piece right here that looks like, why do you have just a tiny little piece of town of St. Joe in a district that's almost all the village of North Hudson and the city of, and the part of the town of Hudson? Well, the reason for that is that this is actually inaccurately mapped. Okay, the Census Bureau has definitely not as good a mapping as we do. It can be off by, they generally admit to, up to 25 meters, okay? And I can show you, and I will show you, examples of where it's off by quite a bit more. So this piece is actually part of St. Joe, but the Census Bureau assures us it's part of the town of Hudson. They insist it's part of the town of Hudson. So we have already sent a request to the state asking if they will fix that, and even if they don't, we will assign those people to the town of St. Joe regardless, because we know that the 7 people that live in that block actually live in St. Joe, not in the town of Hudson. But the Census Bureau thinks they live in Hudson. I don't know why. So that's a small example. There are other things, for instance, sometimes boundaries don't look nice and square and smooth and even. This is a good example. This is County Road E to County Road I to County Road A. Very well-known, popular, easy to understand boundary, but certainly not square and smooth. Another example of things we tried to do was, you can see picking major roads, trying to make what looks like kind of a spread out district look a little wider, look a little more connected, and follow these kind of boundaries. Up here at the top, you can probably see it. We will zoom in one of the next couple slides. You can see that north of New Richmond is the neighborhood that is split. There's that big area. It's a very densely populated area up there. Okay? That's an example. I'm going to move on. And
I was going to say if you want to use the light.
oh, okay.
That's the only thing that's working?
That's the only thing that's working? I'm just not, I'm just gonna not play with it. Okay, a couple of other guidelines that we certainly weighed as heavily as we could, but they are not really a priority, is trying to look at populations of communities, and again, it goes back to the community of interest concept. If a community had a population large enough that they could have a whole supervisory district within that community without being split, I tried to do that as much as possible. For instance, Hudson has 12,000 plus people. That's well over 4,439. So I tried to make sure that there were 2 complete supervisory districts located within the city of Hudson that were not shared with a neighboring municipality. And that was true for these other 4 communities that had populations large enough that they should have a supervisory district completely within their boundaries and not shared with another community. And all of the plans we looked at, we were able to do that, so it didn't really become an issue. Another guideline that we tried to look at was not splitting a community up. Again, community of interest concept. There's also a concept out there called voting block power, okay? And you see that in court cases and in things that are read. It's not really in the law, but it's something that comes up in court cases, so I try to always keep it in mind. What it means is if you start to split areas up, is there a block of voters that could have an impact on an election, and have you purposely split them in order to dilute their power to influence an election? So what I try to do, I don't really know that, because some communities actually get really in-depth and get data on how people vote and how they don't vote, and whether they vote Democrat, or what percentage of the people in an area actually do vote versus how many never go to the polls. We don't look at any of that. What we try to do is keep it much simpler and just say, let's keep the splits of a community that has to be split to an absolute minimum, okay? We prefer one split, 2 districts wherever possible, and we were able to achieve that actually to a great extent. In the town of Hudson was the one community that I would have preferred 3 splits, 3 districts, but it did not work out. There had to be, you have to remember that the town of Hudson and the city of Hudson and all those areas are on an edge. You can only go east. You can go a little bit north, you can go a little bit south, but you have to go east. So you have fewer choices when you can go in fewer directions. And so you end up with less options as you create those districts. And that was definitely true. We can get into that individually if anyone wants to come see what we did. I explained it. It took the poor administration committee well over 2 hours to review all those different things and to look at all the pros and cons and possibilities. But it definitely was a challenge. And so it was the only community that we were not able to minimize the splits to the greatest extent possible. We did minimize them, and we think we kept the block of voting power, I think, in the best possible situation, but it would be preferable to have 3, not 4. Another thing that comes up and is certainly a very important concern to the local municipalities, usually the towns, is school district conflicts. If you can imagine, many of you know that your community might have 2, 3 school districts, sometimes 4 within your community. And if we have to split it for a county board district, sometimes we can do it in a manner so that we only add 1 more consideration at election time. For instance, if you have 3 school districts, you know you have to have 3 separate ballots. Well, if you split it for a county board district, do you turn that 3 into 6 ballots, 4 ballots, or 5 ballots? Okay, if you can imagine that. What we tried to do was make sure that it was never more than 4, all right? There was only one community where it was pretty much impossible to avoid that because the town of St. Joseph has completely disconnected pieces of property in school districts. Seriously, you'll have a piece that's in Hudson, almost a circle around it that's in Somerset, and then another piece below that that's in Hudson again. That creates a situation where there's no way to create a contiguous county board district and meet the other rules that we have to meet. And so town of St. Joe is the one community where we are not able to completely eliminate that. But we were, for instance, town of Somerset also has extensive problems with that, but we were able to avoid those. And that's part of why you see kind of a funny line in St. Joe. It's to avoid school district problems. And the supervisors from Somerset had input exactly what he realized what it was and made his recommendation that we move forward. So, thank you. So here's a couple more examples just to talk about. You see like this and these jogs here. It's not that we did a bad job of mapping. It's that we had to superimpose the program from the state of Wisconsin that uses the census mapping onto the county maps for municipal boundaries, and also so we could pull up roads and things like that. And when we did that, we find how bad the boundaries are from the Census Bureau. Our boundaries are accurate, okay? You can see it's off by quite a bit in quite a few places, all right? So all of those will be reconciled and corrected before the final maps are printed after everything is done. The Census Bureau just asks us to keep track of blocks, and the blocks do go out to the proper lines. You can see how they seem to follow for the most part. There are also annexations that we have to account for. For instance, over here it looks like this is a municipal line. It doesn't look like it follows, but actually this is an annexation that was improperly recorded that we corrected, found about. So those are some of the things we fixed. Zooming in, I was not able in time for mailing it out to you to get all the roads on the maps. If anyone would like a map with roads, I do have those here, and I can give you to them after the meeting, and I have them on here now. So if anyone was wondering, here's the names of the roads. They're a little hard to read up here, but they are on the map now. Basically, as you can see, Village of North Hudson, different districts, some shared districts, districts that are totally within a community, districts that are not. Tried to minimize those strange choppy lines wherever possible. We did use the Willow River up here, did use a piece of walking trail in here. Those are examples there, okay? And here's the city of New Richmond. More examples here. This is probably the worst I've seen.
Ellen, do you want to take questions now, or do you want them held until the end? We've got one right here.
Absolutely. You want to go back?
Back one.
Go back. Mm-hmm. Yes. Up there. Yeah.
Right down in.
Oh, well.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Down in the lower left there, there's a different color right there.
Yes.
Well, is that included in the green or is that included in the brown?
That is included in the green. The administration committee was quite surprised to learn that this is a piece of land that all the land around it has been annexed out of the town of Hudson, but this one has never been annexed. And it is still officially the town of Hudson. So this is one of the few examples of where this has to be attached to this district, or it could be attached to this one, it really wouldn't matter. But it has to be attached to a town of Hudson district because otherwise it is in the town of Hudson, and there's no reason you would create a ward. There's 0 people that live in it, and you wouldn't want to add it to this or this. And it is town of Hudson, not city. Now, how it ever happened that this was created, the only thing I can suggest is what I suggested to the administration committee is technically it probably is still attached to the town of Hudson, way up there at the top by the water. It's Town of Hudson is still touching the St. Croix River, the Malibu, or not, excuse me, Lake St. Croix. And that's probably how it officially still touches.
So that's in District 8 now.
I assigned it to 8. It could be assigned to 3. I just would assign it to a Town of Hudson district.
There's no voters in it, so.
There's 0 people in it. It belongs to like a yacht club or someone. So it's kind of slipped through the cracks over the years.
Go ahead.
I'm pretty close to done here. Any questions? I've just one more slide and that's it. Or all right,
Go ahead,
we can
Ellen.
go forward and we're pretty much one more. So we'll get back to where I was. Okay, so as we said, what's happening next is this was here for your consideration today. Any comments or anything you'd like to learn about it, I'll be happy to talk to you. After the decision is made on the 12th, whether or not to adopt it or after the public hearing to make any changes, then we will send it out to all the municipalities with the request that they create ward plans that make these supervisory lines possible. We will also hold a training session probably in early June. I've heard back from a couple of the municipalities already, and I'll help them with creating their ward plans. They have June and July. If you guys adopt on May 12th, you've actually kind of shortened the time frame. They still have 60 days, but they have only until July 12th. So the sooner you do things, the sooner everything has to be done. That also then will come back to the administration committee for changes to accommodate those cities and villages, and then you will have till September 12th, unless all those plans come in even earlier, in which case they will shorten your time frame, but basically you'll have till September 12th. I expect we will be done in one meeting in August. Usually there aren't a lot of changes. So, and then we report everything to the state. Any questions? Linda?
Looking at the guidelines, you know, they talk about decreasing splits of municipalities and decreasing the number of municipalities sharing a district and maintaining communities of interest.
Mhm.
So I'm noticing on here that 3 growing western towns have been split up and are having to share districts, namely Somerset, St. Joe, and the town of Hudson. And I'm wondering about that.
Well, the town of St. Joe doesn't have enough population to have a supervisory district all to itself, and neither did Somerset. They're very close. I actually tried 3 or 4 combinations to see if there was any way I could make it work to them to have less combined. And we frequently went through, I actually had a really hard time coming up with a combination that didn't split Somerset 3 ways. Because it's in that corner again. And you have to move from, can we go back to that one, the big map? You have to move from one corner down, and yet you can't really ignore the village of Somerset either. It's right there, it's within. You almost have to add their population together and work from there. So as I kept coming down, I tried going east, I tried coming south, I tried going this way. This actually was the nicest combination I could come up with that didn't have more splits.
May 12th.
Affirmative.
Okay. That's in conflict with our agenda that says June 7th. Does that need any correction?
Under the consent. It'll come back to the county board after.
The date of the next regular county board meeting, other than the special meeting, is in fact June 7th, which is an evening meeting. This is going to be a special county board meeting only for the purpose of conducting the public hearing.
Thank you.
Anyone in need of a break, or shall we proceed? I don't see anyone desiring stoppage, so let's move right then down our agenda. Let's go to agenda item number 3, resolution to increase the civil process fees. This resolution comes to us from the Public Protection Committee. Chair would entertain a motion. So moved from Supervisor Stoffer, second from Supervisor Larson. Discussion. Any explanation that the committee wants to make with respect to the resolution? Seeing none, I assume that means that the board is ready to vote. Is the second in? Proceed to vote on the resolution to increase the civil process fees. And that is adopted unanimously. Agenda item number 4 is a resolution authorizing an application for a lake management protection grant, and this comes to us from the Community Development Committee. Chair would entertain a motion. Motion from Supervisor Hermsen, second from Supervisor Marzov. Any explanation that the committee wants to make with respect to the resolution?
Board Chair, I'd just like to point out in the back for those members that have, if they're questioning why Supervisor Sather didn't have a signature on there, he had voted in the affirmative at the meeting, but was not in attendance with the day when we signed this. So it was a unanimous vote, other than James Stoffer.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion from any supervisors? Is the second in? Supervisor Marzov, you need to insert your second. And supervisors, proceed to vote. That is adopted unanimously. Resolution number 5 is a resolution regarding the Health Center Business Plan. I need to make just a procedural comment about this resolution before it is placed on the floor, and that is that we will need to be careful with any comments that are made by supervisors that would wander into the area of bargaining. Bargaining is conducted only in closed session, and if we wander into that area, it would be a violation. And if you hear the gavel, that should not be taken personally. It's just that I'm keeping us from wandering into an inappropriate area. So just be advised, this is not a bargaining session. We're only going to consider the resolution that's in front of us. That being said, this is a resolution presented by the Health and Human Services Board, and Chair would entertain a motion.
I'll bring it to the floor.
Motion from Supervisor Wentz, second from Supervisor Larson. Any comments or explanation from the committee?
I think the last therefore, now therefore be it resolved. The last one, now therefore be it resolved, tells you the whole reason for the resolution.
Any discussion from any supervisor? Seeing none, I assume that you are ready to vote. Is the second in? Second was from Larson. that in?
Yes, it is.
Proceed to vote on the resolution regarding the health center business plan. And that passes unanimously. Agenda item number 6 is a resolution to refill the part-time nurse supervisor position. This is indicated on the agenda as a .8 FTE position. I believe that the document that is presented is in fact correct, and it's an FTE .9 position. Am I correct on that, Cindy? This resolution comes to us from the Administration Committee, and Chair would entertain a motion.
I'll bring it to the floor.
Motion by Supervisor Wentz and second from Supervisor Schrank. Any discussion or explanation on this? Supervisor Hermsen.
Thank you, Board Chair. Just curious, nowhere in the resolution does it give an FTE amount. Oh,
It's under the position justification, Supervisor.
Okay, and this is a position at this time that has been vacated and we are now refilling, is my understanding? Is that correct? Okay.
Any further discussion? If not, proceed to vote.
Robert? Unanimous.
That passes unanimously. Agenda item number 7 looks like the identical resolution. This is a resolution to refill a part-time nurse supervisor position, but this is, if you will look in the position justification, a half FTE position. Chair would entertain a motion. Motion from Supervisor Marzoff, second from Supervisor Wentz. Any explanation or comment from the committee or discussion by the board? Seeing none, I believe you're ready to vote. You have your second in, Supervisor Wentz. Supervisors, vote please. And that passes unanimously. Agenda item number 8 is a resolution to refill a part-time food service worker position. This also comes from the Administration Committee, and Chair would entertain a motion. Motion by Wentz, second by Supervisor Schrank. Any comment or discussion from the committee or a question from a supervisor? Supervisor Hermsen.
Thank you, Board Chair. Are any of these positions, or should I say, are all of these positions been budgeted for the year?
Yes,
They have?
yes.
All right, then, no more questions.
Supervisor Stoffer.
These last 3, I was wondering if the changes in the number of beds used at one point, if they affect how much these positions are used. I was talking to, or emailing with the administrator and getting some information on that, but I didn't get a clarification. So I was wondering if anyone could clarify whether the amount that these positions are used varies with the number of beds used.
Supervisor Stoffer, I'll have the chair of the HHS committee respond.
We always staff to the census, and so if our census is down, the people that we employ during that period of time except to meet the state standards, we staff to the census. And so these people would not be used if we did not have the census, which would be needed to have these people on staff.
Seeing no additional questions, proceed to vote on the resolution to refill the part-time food service worker position. That is adopted unanimously. Agenda item number 9 is a resolution to refill the part-time CNA position. This also comes from an Administration Committee, and Chair would entertain a motion. Motion from Supervisor Marzoff, second from Supervisor Wentz. Get your second in. Any comments or discussion from the Administration Committee or questions from any supervisor? Seeing none, proceed to vote. And that is adopted unanimously. Agenda item number 10 is a resolution to refill a part-time cook position. This comes from the Administration Committee. Chair will entertain a motion. Motion Larson, second Schrank. Alfie, you have your second in. Any discussion from the Administration Committee or question from any supervisor? Seeing none, proceed to vote, supervisors. That is adopted unanimously. Number 11 is a resolution to refill an administrative secretary position. This also comes from the Administration Committee. Chair will entertain a motion. Motion from Supervisor Norton Bauman and a second from Supervisor Hermsen. Any explanation from the committee or any question from any supervisor? Supervisor Stoffer.
If Supervisor Sather would like to explain his no vote, I would appreciate it.
The reason I voted no is because their job responsibilities and business is down in the zoning, and I think if they should step up to the plate, and they're gonna have to realign some jobs until it gets filled, and then because we're gonna go into the budget process, I don't think it needs to be filled at this time.
Any additional comment or question? Seeing none, proceed to vote, supervisors. That is adopted on a vote of 16-2. Agenda item number 12 is a resolution to refill the accounting fiscal manager position. This is at the vacancy that was created by the departure of, I'm having a brain thorn, Tanya. Chair will entertain a motion. Motion from Supervisor Norton Bauman and a second from Supervisor Seacard. Discussion. Seeing none, I will take that as a sign that you're ready to vote. Proceed to vote, supervisors. let me explain to you those reasons. I believe that I have them reasonably correct. If I stumble or err, I'm sure I can count on the Corp Council to correct my lack of legal precision. But according to our bylaws, we could not consider a resolution that does not come from a standing committee. This comes to us on an emergency basis and therefore is not originating in a standing committee. Second of all, it is not presented to us for our consideration with 5 days' notice. So again, we cannot consider it because it violates that bylaw unless we suspend our rules, suspend the bylaws to consider the resolution. It will take a 2/3 vote to suspend our bylaws. If we vote to suspend the rules by a 2/3 vote, then we can consider the resolution and make a decision on an up or down basis whether to adopt the resolution. If we do not suspend the rules, we do not consider the resolution at all. So at this point, Chair would inquire if there is a motion to suspend the rules. Motion from Supervisor Marzoff and second from Supervisor Schrank. This will require a 2/3 vote. Alfie, get your second in. And again, this is a vote on whether or not you want to suspend the rules. This is not a vote on the resolution. Supervisors, proceed to vote. The rules are suspended for the purpose of considering this resolution. This is coming to us on an emergency basis. I will ask either Supervisor Wentz or Supervisor Larson to respond to this. I am aware of the issue and have had conversation with our building services manager over the past couple of weeks. I think at this point I'm going to ask if there is a motion to place this in front of us for consideration, and then we'll move to discussion. So at this point, Chair will inquire, is there a motion to bring forward this emergency resolution? Motion from Larson, second from Supervisor Wentz. And now discussion. Either of you can make a preliminary explanation if you want on this issue.
Yeah, I can explain some of it, but probably be best if we had Dave Best up here too to continue on. It's because of a leak in the domestic water at the health center, and it's leaking into the hot water heat system.
Dave, why don't you come forward,
come
Dave?
up and give us assistance with this. But the leak has got larger.
I would like to tell the board before Dave starts that at our April 20th meeting of the Health and Human Services Board, we were made aware that we had this problem, and Art was telling us that he was gathering bids and he was trying to get things together because we did have an issue with the water heater, and he was going down and through all of the bidding processes and getting things in line. We were not aware, and I was not aware, that the water heater had disintegrated to this point. So I'm very happy that Dave is here to explain the problem. Thank you.
Dave, you want to get the mic?
And I will do the best I can explaining this to you. I would start with that Art would have liked to be here tonight, but he's unable to, so he's asked me to stand in his place and try to explain the issues that we have before us. And thank you for letting me do this. I know this is kind of different, I suppose, or strange to have it come on an emergency basis, and we don't like to see it happen in our department any more than we have to, obviously. But the water heater that we're talking about is, to describe it briefly, is to look at it not so much different looking than what you might have in your basement. It's of that size, larger perhaps a little bit, but it doesn't use fuel as natural gas or electricity to heat the water. It uses water to heat the water. It uses the water from our boiler systems there. So we have about 2 million BTUs of capacity available in our heating boiler plant that we pipe through a helical coil inside that water heater that heats that water for domestic use throughout the nursing home, both in about 150-degree temperatures and then 110-degree temperatures for the nursing home proper for the residents. What has happened is, and this is an original piece of equipment, about 29 years, 30 years perhaps now, old. And what has happened is it developed a leak inside on one of those helical copper tubes. There's many, many of them inside this machine. It can create tremendous amounts of hot water, almost endless in what we use there. But somewhere inside it has created a leak. And we noticed it initially about March, the end of March, last week of March I believe it was. And it was fairly small. We noticed it as an increase in our boiler water pressure. The guys came forward and said, we've got an issue, we're gaining pressure, we don't know where that's coming from, it shouldn't do that. We traced it back and discovered that we had a leak inside that vessel, that water heater. That runs at about 55 pounds pressure domestic, boiler's much lower, about 15 pounds. So water's traveling from that into my boiler system. But it was small, manageable, we could deal with it, so we moved forward, attempting to go through the normal process and then monitored the leak. Problem with that is, last Friday, it increased dramatically. The guys are monitoring this 2 to 3 times a day, recording how much it's leaking, what time they were there, what the pressures were, temperatures, and so on, and it drastically changed. It's not spraying all over the place. There's no danger that anything's going to explode or blow up or anything like that. But the drastic change in amount tells us that something has happened. It's worsened to the point where we're concerned. And so in discussions with Art on last Friday, briefly I talked to him and mentioned to him that we did have an issue, and he asked me to come forward, talk to Greg Timmerman to see what Corp Council recommended that we do, because we really didn't have time now, we felt, to go through the normal processes that we were going through. And so that's what brings me here today, and I guess at this point I might just entertain questions or explain further if you need me to.
Just a couple more pieces of explanation. A couple of weeks ago when I first began talking to Art Tobin about this issue, we discussed the possibility of an emergency system that would be able to be brought on site in the event of a failure of the system. What would we do in the meantime? And he has been in contact with Train Corporation, and they do have a facility that it would be on a trailer, somewhat analogous to the backup generator that we've brought here. And he has made arrangements that we could have that on site in a period and up and running in a period somewhere between 24 and 36 hours. So if there was an absolute catastrophic failure of the system, we could use that as an emergency situation, because obviously we can't go without hot water at the health center. I mean, that just is not acceptable. So there is that possibility. What I suggested to Dave in discussion, when did we talk?
Monday.
Monday, I guess.
This has all happened really quickly, so.
What I suggested to Dave, and then shortly after I talked to Dave, my phone rang and it was Art. Not surprisingly, he's not supposed to be doing this kind of stuff while he's dealing with his heart problem, but you know, you can't keep a good guy down, I guess. He called and we discussed the issue again, and with both of them, I indicated that I thought that what we were doing and the work that Dave and Corp Council had put together so that we could consider the possibility of this emergency resolution is that this could be our insurance policy. If we adopt this tonight, this would give us the opportunity to use this in the event of a catastrophic failure. We could bring the emergency train equipment on site, proceed with as quickly as possible getting the system in place that we've been talking about now for a period of time. But if we do not need to use the emergency resolution, it would be an insurance policy that we simply didn't use, because I still would think that it makes sense for us as a board to proceed on an orderly basis in fixing the problem that we know is there, and it's not going to go away, but fix it through our standard process of securing bids and making sure it's engineered right and doing it properly in terms of fix, including, in all likelihood, a redundancy so that there's a backup. Right now, we've got a situation, if this fails, there is no backup system. So my conversation with both Dave and Art was that we probably should proceed with consideration of the emergency resolution, but there's the possibility that we would not need to use the authorization that would be granted if in fact this board approves the emergency resolution. Did I state that fairly?
That is very accurate, yes.
Supervisor Marzov.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In looking at the resolution, it seems to me that the last two whereas clauses speak to both the urgency and the wisdom of voting in favor of this resolution, and I would therefore recommend that we do that.
Absolutely.
Supervisor Stoffer.
Can anyone provide approximate funds balances for the two potential sources, the contingency fund and the bond fund?
Is Michelle here? In all candor, I don't think the bond fund is probably a reasonable source for this. I think the contingency fund, which has unallocated dollars in it at the present time, and I can't give you the precise amount. Does any other member of the administration committee know we have used the contingency fund for hardly anything. So the contingency fund. Yeah, yeah. We haven't used it hardly at all. That's about as accurate as I can give you. Supervisor Hermsen.
Thank you, Board Chair. I guess I'm kind of curious I am concerned with the funding source here. The bond money that we had voted to take on, and 2 months ago, we allowed the administration committee to use for capital outlay stuff. I would think this falls pretty much right in the capital outlay criteria. And I'm a little concerned with the fact that we're saying we've known that this thing has had a leak for some time, maybe a small one, for a few weeks.
Well, but the knowledge is in this budget cycle. It did not. It was not known at the time of the adoption of the budget. If that's your question.
No, I realize that. I'm saying that, but the 3.3 million was for capital outlay, and whereas the contingency fund would be something that could be used in times like this. I think, and we've had some email going back and forth about this, but I think that if we're going to use a contingency fund, that's going to require a 2/3 vote to bring that out. I think it does, but the other part though, I just think it'd be far easier just to use it straight out of the bond money. That's kind of where I'm going.
Supervisor Norton Baumann.
Thank you, Board Chair. I appreciate Supervisor Hermsen's concern about where we get the money to pay for this, what I call an emergency project. If there is a way for us to use bond dollars from our $3.3 million bond proceeds to pay for this emergency, I think that the administration committee will find a way to make that happen and come back to this board and at least let the board know that we have reallocated some bond dollars that are in that fund. If that's not possible, then the only place we have to go to get these dollars this year is to our contingency fund. And while we really don't like to spend the contingency fund in bunches of dollars at 70,000 or so, we really don't have a choice. That's where we have to get the dollars unless we can reallocate bond dollars from that bond fund. There may be a way to do that, we don't know yet, but I can assure you that we in the administration committee will look seriously at how we will fund this repair project.
Any other questions or discussion? If not, I believe you're ready to vote. Do we have the second in? Second from Wentz? Supervisors, proceed to vote. At this point, you are now voting on the emergency resolution authorizing repair of the health center water heating system. Thank you for your comments, Dave. At this point, we have concluded our agenda. I would remind you that the date of 12 May has been set aside. There will be the special board meeting at 9, and then the committee of the whole meeting preceding that at 9:30 or whenever the public hearing is concluded. Are there any other items from any supervisors? Supervisor Hermsen.
Thank you, Board Chair. I got something I'd like to read to the board and then make a request at the end. And before I do that, I guess I better get my glasses on that I can read with. Both my positions here on the board is with the chair of the Community Development Committee and also as a member of the Public Protection Committee requires consistent opinions by the Corporation Council with which to cast when casting and deciding a vote. At our last full county board meeting on April 5th, when acting on the resolution regarding ATVs and the Wildwood Trail, material was presented to the board, given an opinion by Corp Council, which reads as follows. It was to the members of the Community Development Committee dated March 10th regarding ATV use on the Wildwood Trail. I won't go into all of it, but he concluded with, if someone was injured or property was damaged by an ATV, the county would be found liable for damages by allowing a known danger to exist. But it would be even worse for the county if this scenario, because the county would not simply have known about the danger, the county would have actually and knowingly created the danger by taking affirmative steps to allow ATVs to use the trail. That would make it even more likely that the county would be found liable. My sense is that the possibility of injury to persons or damage to property by allowing ATV use on the Wildwood Trail is not remote. It is very real. And for that reason, I would recommend that the county not approve the use of the trail by ATVs. Signed, Greg. Now, as the board may recall, we had a lengthy discussion was had with comments made concerning liability and a belief we were unable to proceed on a trial basis. We talked at quite length about having a trial run for the year on that trail. However, at the following Public Protection Committee meeting, the committee was asked to consider reducing the number of 911 lines as a county cost-cutting measure to our emergency communication center. When advised on the risk of an increased likelihood of 911 calls receiving a busy signal resulting in a delayed service, the Public Protection Committee was presented the following opinion by Corporation Counsel when asked about the increased liability due to merged trunks. Response was, the general rule regarding county liability is there is no liability for decisions made in exercise of discretion. Exercising discretion means that a situation is identified and reasonably analyzed, courses of action are considered, and a reasonable course of action is chosen. Whether that course of action ultimately turns out to be a wrong course of action or inferior to another course of action shouldn't matter. It appears you are exercising discretion in analyzing your situation and considering alternatives to the present trunk structure in emergency communications. The ultimate decision, whether it is the best decision or not, should not create liability in the county should it turn out to not be the best decision. Additionally, you are making a decision on a trial basis which further supports that you are exercising discretion. Obviously, we don't want anyone to suffer because of the trial, but if someone does, the cold legal reality is that the county shouldn't be liable to that person. These signs, if we have any questions or comment, please contact Corp Counsel. So what I'd like Corp Counsel to come before this board to report is justifications in giving contradicting views to board members on our county's liability when it relates to a recreational trail use by choice versus an emergency service used by need. As board members, we need to be confident our decisions and votes are based on opinions from Corp Counsel that are reasonable and sound. So I look forward to that report, if possible.
Supervisor Hermsen, you are requesting, I'm assuming, a response under our bylaws. As I recall, a supervisor can ask a standing committee for a report. I'm a little in doubt what to do with your request that involves two committees. Supervisor Malik.
Mr. Chairman, I faced that issue once upon a time, and I assured the board that I would make a proper referral upon reflection. I did not make an instantaneous decision. I think you should feel empowered to do that also.
I think that's very good advice, and since you and Supervisor Rebholz are obviously my mentors, I'm going to take advantage of that. I don't want to make a cavalier response. You are raising, I believe, a legitimate request under a bylaw provision, but I don't know how to respond to it at this juncture, Supervisor Hermsen. The bylaw that I'm referring to would indicate that there would be a response back to this board from a standing committee within 2 months. So just thinking through that, we don't even meet in July. That would really mean the August meeting. We've got 2 committees. I will respond as soon as I can to you, and I will indicate via email to all of the other supervisors what my response is with the request for a report. Is that agreeable? Supervisor Marzov.
I just wanted to ask a question for clarification. This item was not on the agenda for this meeting, and I'm wondering what the justification is or was for considering it.
We're not considering, there's no action item. Any supervisor can ask under a bylaw provision for a report, as the supervisor did. And we're not dealing with it other than he made a request. Is there any other item from any other supervisor? If not, supervisors, we are adjourned.